Hey everybody, how we doing today? Hopefully better than the guy I'm about to talk about. So I believe it was a couple days ago that an individual attacked an ICE facility with a firebomb. For those of you unfamiliar, not everyone agrees with ICE, which is an immigration agency, immigration control. Now, this man had attacked a facility in Tacoma, Washington, not far from where I live, actually. Excuse me for a second. Woo. But the man who attacked Tacoma Immigration Center was a repeat assailant, as said by the authorities, according to an article by Reuters. Reuters authorities in Tacoma, Washington have named a man who was killed after attacking an immigration detention facility, and court records showed he had been previously arrested for assaulting a police officer at a protest outside the same facility. Police say Willem Van Spronsen, 69, was armed with a rifle and incendiary devices when he attacked the Northwest Detention Center before dawn on Saturday. The Pierce County Medical Examiner officer said he died of multiple gunshot wounds. According to authorities, Van Spronsen set fire to one vehicle in the parking lot and was trying to ignite a propane tank when he was confronted by 4 police officers who opened fire on him. None of the officers were injured. Well, good for that, I guess. The Tacoma Police Department did not immediately respond to a request for further comment on Sunday. Van Spronsen was arrested last year for assaulting a police officer during a protest outside the same detention center. According to court records, he pleaded guilty to a charge of obstructing police and was released from custody in October. Saturday's attack on the facility took place several hours after a peaceful rally protesting immigrant detentions outside the facility, according to authorities. The center is privately operated by GEO Group, Incorporated, on behalf of the U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement, or ICE. The incident in Tacoma happened as a nationwide wave of arrest of immigrants facing deportation is set to begin over the weekend. The operation is expected to target hundreds of families in 10 cities, who have recently been ordered deported by an immigration court but have not yet left the country. I have a couple of questions. One, where the hell did this guy get all that equipment? Well, admittedly, the gun, he built it himself. It was an AR-15 ghost gun, as it is called, but in some circles. And as for the incendiary devices, probably homemade, probably rigged, something he rigged up himself. The second question, which is a little harder to answer. Why do people care more for immigrants than people who were literally born here? Because it sure looks that way. Talk about issues people that were actually born here face if they're not a minority. Crickets. Oh, but if they happen to be a minority and an immigrant, oh, then they get real loud. But, you know, if it's a serious issue like Flint, Michigan, the left, crickets. That's kind of interesting to me. Why do they care so much more about people they see as being, quote-unquote, oppressed? Where do they even get that idea in the first place, that people are being oppressed? Oppression is a matter of systemic abuse. But under the law, everyone has the same rights as everyone else. And they are enforced equally. In theory, some police departments are actually legitimately racist. Just saying. But, you know, if you're in this country illegally, then we can remove you. It's really that simple. If you're not a legal citizen and you stay here too long, we have the right to remove you. Oh, but apparently according to them, that's fascist. Guarantee you show them the definition of fascist in the dictionary and they won't even recognize it. A senior ICE official told the Washington Post that the attack in Tacoma could have resulted in the mass murder of staff and detainees housed at the facility. These are the kinds of incidents that keep you up at night, Sean Falah, who heads the ICE Office of Professional Responsibility, said in a statement. But here we are to proceed to yet another article that should not leave you in any shock whatsoever. This man, Willem Van Spronsen, a 69-year-old, was a member of Antifa. an Antifa terrorist who was shot dead after firebombing a government facility. Willem Van Spronsen, a 69-year-old Antifa radical who was arrested for assaulting a police officer at protests last year, was shot dead Saturday after he attacked an Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE facility in Tacoma, Washington with a Molotov cocktail. This is according to an article borrowed from the New York Times. The police fatally shot a man who was attacking an immigration detention center in Tacoma, Washington on Saturday morning, the authorities said. But yeah, he was an Antifa guy. According to a police statement, the man identified as official on Saturday afternoon was Willem Van Spronsen of Vashon Island, Washington. Continued throwing lit objects at a building and cars, the statement said. One car was fully engulfed in flames, said Officer Loretta Cool, a spokeswoman for the Tacoma Police Department. He was also trying to ignite a big propane tank, but was not successful. He could have done some serious damage with that. I'll tell you what. So according to a friend of Von Spronsen's, Deb Bartley, Deb was friends with him for about 20 years, and she described him as an anarchist and anti-fascist, and believes his attack on the detention center intending to provoke a fatal conflict. He was ready to end it, Bartley said. I think this was a suicide. But then he was able to kind of do it in a way that spoke to his political beliefs. I know he went down there knowing he was going to die. She and other friends of Von Spronsen got letters in the mail just saying goodbye. He also wrote what she referred to as a manifesto, which she declined to discuss in detail but predicted would be taken by authorities. Now, here's the thing. They call themselves anti-fascists. But do you know how fascism in Europe actually rose up in the first place? They actually try and claim it was through free speech, by saying things that drove people to act that way. But is that historically correct? No, it is not. They did not rise through free speech. They rise through restricting free speech. There was a storybook, a novel called All Quiet on the Front that was very unpopular with the Nazis. And there was a movie version being made at a theater nearby. When the Nazis found out, they attacked it. They suppressed the release of the movie on opening day by throwing all manner of objects at the theater, including sneezing powder and whatever else they could find. In fact, when you look at the tactics of Antifa and then you look at the early tactics of the Nazis during their rise, it's really hard to tell them apart. And plus, you call yourselves anti-fascist, but what people in our government are actually fascists by the proper definition of fascist? Can you think of any? Neither can I. Like, they like to call Trump Hitler, but okay. Has Trump said anything about has Trump said anything legitimately, truly hateful about Mexicans in general, calling them scum of the earth, less than human, like Hitler did about the Jews? No. Has he given an order to kill between 4 and 6 million Mexicans? No. Then I guess he's not Hitler. But these people are emotionally driven sheep. They're not evaluating the information they're being given. They're just regurgitating it like children. Because again, they're emotionally driven sheep. And they legitimately don't know any better. The level of ignorance is off the charts. But get this. Liberals are celebrating Van Spronsen as a hero and demonizing the ICE facility as a Nazi concentration camp. Really, concentration camps. Even though literally the people being put there came to these concentration camps of their own accord. We didn't grab them and put them in there. They tried to come to this country. They're willingly going into these facilities. Like, what? Like, serious? These people have no critical evaluation skills at all. here's some tweets to make my point from another article. Someone with symbols as a name instead of a name, which shows their pronouns as she, her. It's one of those. William Van Spronsen was a martyr. The U.S. is the evil empire, and he was a freedom fighter. Evil empire, really. Smoochable cryptid. Willem Van Spronsen will be remembered as a folk hero in a few years. Doubt that. He'll be remembered as a terrorist. Haymaker, Chicago. Sometimes our love, rage, and grief hit a breaking point, and we do things that feel right even though they aren't strategic. True, actually. Very true. I don't know what Willem Van Spronsen was feeling in his last hours, but my guess is that he desperately wanted to end the horror of fascist camps right now. Fascist. How is America fascist? Next time you run into a leftist, ask them that question. How is America fascist? And then watch them fail to answer the question. Because they're just regurgitating emotional, platitudes. They have not actually thought about it. Jack. Rest in power, Willem Van Spronsen. Millicent. Neo-Ducist. Willem Van Spronsen was a fucking hero. Disagree with his specific tactics if you want, but don't ever speak ill of that man in my presence. Then I won't speak in your presence, or to you at all. Queen in North Carolina, and it's just a bunch of hashtags. Comrade, Willem Van Spronsen, R.I.P. And then finally we get to anarcho-cobbinist. His name was Willem Van Spronsen. He was an anarchist, folk singer, and a true hero. Rest in power, and may more rise up and unite to liberate those he bravely tried to alone. Responding to a tweet saying, to that person who tried to liberate the camps all by yourself. Braver than the fucking troops ever will be. And you wonder why people say the left has gone insane. These are far-left extremists supporting a far-left extremist who was necessarily put down by the government after he attacked a government facility, like terrorists do. What else was he? And again, they're not concentration camps because these people are willingly come to this country. They surrender to the authorities and are willingly placed in these facilities that are just waiting areas for immigration or deportation. They're ports of entry and exit. They're not concentration camps. Where do they get this crap? And finally, we're going to take a quick look at the proper dictionary definition of fascism. Definition 1. A system of government marked by centralization of authority under a dictator. A capitalist economy subject to stringent governmental controls, violent suppression of the opposition, and typically a policy of belligerent nationalism and racism. Definition 2. A political philosophy or movement based on or advocating such a system of government. In what way does America resemble that? Do we have a centralized authority or that is underneath a dictator? Have they centralized authority? Or do we have rule of law? The answer, we have rule of law. We do have a capitalist economy, but are we subject to stringent governmental controls? Do we have governmental controls? Yes, but are they extremely strict? No. There's a lot of leeway. Where our market is at least 60% free. Excuse me. Violent suppression of the opposition and typically a policy of belligerent nationalism and racism? No, there's nothing belligerent about it. It's just simple exercising of authority, no different than arresting someone for having committed a crime. These people on the left, particularly the far left, clearly don't know what fascism means. They don't even know what it is. They're just spewing platitudes. because in the end, they're just emotionally driven sheep who don't know any better. Antifa, the anti-fascists, are not fighting fascists. They're literally fighting the very foundation of our society and government. They're anarchists. Violent, anarchistic terrorists. Quite frankly, they need to be put down. See ya.